Welcome to the Tailwind Marketing Podcast, where we talk to other B2B marketing leaders and agency executives about how to grow our businesses profitably. Hosted by Carlos Corredor and Antonio Santana, the co-founders of Condor Marketing and Staffing, an Inc. 5000 company and one of the fastest growing B2B agencies in the U.S.
Hi, I'm Carlos Corredor, here with Antonio Santana. We're the co-founders of Condor Agency and host of the Tailwind Marketing Podcast, where we talk to marketing leaders of agencies and B2B departments about how to grow their business. This episode is brought to you by Condor Marketing and Staffing. How are you growing? Playing digital marketing is not enough in 2023. To win, you need a business-minded, agile, accountable team. So let's get you one. Condor is a marketing and staffing agency focused on helping other agencies and B2B marketing departments take their marketing game to the next level by leveraging analytics and Latin American talent. You can learn more at condoragency.com. We have Chad Franzen here of Rise 25, who has done thousands of interviews with successful entrepreneurs and CEOs. And today we flipped the script and he is going to be the one interviewing us. So welcome, Chad. Great to have you.
Hey, thanks so much, Carlos. Antonio, nice to meet you guys. Nice to see you. Hey, as we kind of get to know each other here, I'd like to learn a little bit more about Condor, if you don't mind. Why don't you start out by telling me how it got started?
Okay, yeah. We actually need to go way back, like 15 years ago. Carlos and I were studying in the same college. He was studying mass communication and I was studying law. I graduated, but I never practiced law. And right after I graduated, I moved to Madrid, where I studied sports marketing master. And when I returned to Venezuela, I mean, Carlos and myself, we were already friends. We share the passion for fantasy baseball and and sports in general. We had several friends in common and we started as friends, but then we started to do some things together. For example, we actually did a podcast. We had more than 400 episodes in the past related to sports and specifically baseball. And Carlos at that time was working at one of the biggest sports media in Venezuela, and I was doing some radio shows and discussing. We identified that in Venezuela there was a need for providing statistics for the Venezuelan Winter League, and none of the sports media were doing that, and we decided that we needed to develop this product. And not only the company where Carlos was working at that time hired us, but also basically all the sports media and the news media in Venezuela hired us to provide the Venezuelan Winter League baseball statistics. So that was our first business together, and also the podcast. And right after that, we also identified that there was all the sports media in Venezuela, they were doing traditional and old school journalism. And we wanted to create our own sports digital media with a relaxed approach, focusing on videos. And that's where we also launched that new product that was called El Abonado. That it's basically like a season ticket holder. And
it's kind of like Barstool Sports, but we didn't even know Barstool Sports by then, in a sense that, for people familiar with ESPN and other platforms, is one that is more relaxed. It's focused more on young people and how they go about sports, and the fact that, you don't have to treat sports as if it's a political news or a political event. Yeah, it's fun. No one's gonna die. No, nothing's gonna happen. It's just a home run or not, or a goal or not.
Yeah, and it was also a success at that time. For example, we had over 500,000 followers in social media. We developed an application for the Android and the App Store, and that was new at that time. And we basically became the most downloaded application in the market in Venezuela. We were sponsored by the biggest beer company in Venezuela. We were basically a success at that time. All the baseball players, they were engaging with us, commenting and asking for videos and things like that. And I mean, that's basically the initial part of all our route, where Carlos and myself were working together on different projects. There were other projects, they weren't that successful at the time, but we were doing this by our own, with our own employees. And basically all of that involved digital marketing, because we needed to position our product in the stores, doing paid media, SEO, and social media. We were really huge in social media. So those were the beginnings of our story.
Yeah, I remember when I was working for that newspaper at the beginning. It's like I already knew that sports journalism was fun, but it was not really for me. It was hard to make, a living out of it. And the tipping point was I for the baseball fans, there was a closer. He was a player for the Los Angeles Angels, back then Anaheim Angels, Francisco Rodriguez. And I was assigned to interview him that day. It was going to be a huge interview. It's the first time that he went to Venezuela. I was supposed to ask him when was he going to play his first game with the Venezuelan team, the La Guaira Sharks. And, I had to wait for him for 4 hours. I got to the stadium really early, 1 or 2 p.m. The game was at 7. I waited for him till 2 in the morning. And he walked out and he didn't answer me. He said, no, later. And then, no, after the game, no, in the parking lot. And then he's like, no time, sorry, bye. And that's when I said, okay, yeah, no, let's focus on digital marketing full time. And, by then, I remember having discussions with my boss. Let's do fantasy games. Let's do live scores, statistics, things that, it's not like we came up with that. They have been in the US for a while, but nobody was providing that in Venezuela. But there was always an excuse, no budget, whatever, it was not the priority. So, so I quit, and then, but that's the time that I met Antonio, which, yeah, we were friends, but honestly, it's not like we were best friends. We became really good friends working together in these projects. And then, we developed that and then sold it to the newspaper where I was before. And, I said, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do, the digital space. So that's when, I went to Chicago in 2011 to do a master's in digital marketing in Northwestern. Worked in a couple of agencies to get some experience. And then, we saw the opportunity of not only a sports publisher or a sports website, but a marketing agency. And
actually, Carlos, at the time, Venezuela, there was a huge crisis. And I mean, we were a success by then, and we were earning money, and we had several employees, around 30 employees. But with that crisis, I mean, the game changed completely, and we needed to basically shut down operations in Venezuela, because, I mean, it was like...
Yeah, I remember in 1 week, the currency, which is the Bolivar in Venezuela, it went from 10 Bolivars to $1 to 100 to $1, right? So, if I needed, $3,000-$4,000 a month in Chicago to get by, now that suddenly became 300 or 400. And that's also, it's like, okay, I need to pay my debt with school, and I need to eat here in Chicago. So that's also another reason why, I worked in those agencies for a good 5 years until we finally said, okay, let's actually do this marketing agency project.
Yeah, you guys could have done. I mean, you have a law degree, mass communications, all kinds of backgrounds in sports. You had worked in marketing agencies. What was it about having your own marketing agency that was so appealing?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Marketing, I mean, agencies in general is a tough business. It's much easier to just do an app, have 2 million people use it, and then just make, some bucks per person. And, it's very scalable that way. People businesses, they require a lot of attention, effort, mentoring, training, recruiting, attrition. There's a bunch of headaches that are related to it. So it's a tough business to get into. But it was really that frustration that we had while building those products ourselves as entrepreneurs and working with other agencies, that we saw how most of them were really bad. They were mediocre. They took advantage of the clients not really knowing, let's say, development or marketing. So we ended up doing things on our own, whether that's developing the website, promoting it on Google, finding influencers. Back then, the word influencer was not even a thing, and we found our network in sports journalists that they say, hey, promote this for me on Twitter. I'll pay you for, we'll pay you for each download that we get, that type of thing, right? So we did the marketing by ourselves. We did the SEO. We learned our SEO ourselves and did it, and that's really why with the marketing, obviously good content and everything, but the marketing was a main factor on why that project was successful, and we could do it better than any agency, so-called experts, right? So it's like, okay, no, let's definitely, do it ourselves. And, we knew we could help others.
And it was actually like, if we had an agency, we were basically, putting these products on the market with SEO, with pay media, with email marketing, with social media. It was like basically running an agency before we had our own.
Yeah, it sounds so. You have all kinds of experience in marketing, and you kind of become experts in marketing. But you mentioned, Carlos, your experience as entrepreneurs. I'm guessing that your experience in launching other businesses had a big impact on why you started this one.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's we're still entrepreneurs. I mean, it's something you never lose. It's like, for example, for me, I study law and then I switched to sports journalism, and it wasn't for me. But when I started to develop these products and launching them and putting them into market, it was like that was my passion. Like being an entrepreneur and enjoying all the process since the foundations until the consolidation of the company. And right now, what we're doing is basically we're using Condor Agency as some kind of a hub to create new ideas, and we use the internal team to help us with that, because I mean we are on the agency basically on a full-time basis, but using the team to create new ideas, to delegate, to give them autonomy, to help us develop new ideas. It's something that has been really good for us. For example, we developed a product that it's called Wahoo, and it's basically like an independent scouting platform where we gather information from baseball prospects in Latin America, and we use advanced technology to gather this information, and then we sell that information to Major League Baseball teams, where they use that information to use it to sign prospects. So right now, for example, we have 11 teams, 11 Major League Baseball teams that are working with us. MLB is actually working with us. We have another project that it's called Cora, that it's a sports pools application to send direct challenges and to play between the community. And also another one that it's called Uno, that it's basically a service for wellness, fitness, and nutrition. So as you see, Chad, some of the projects that we have developed are also related to sports, and it's something that we never lose. We actually use all these sports values into our agency, and it's something that it's a part of us basically.
And the other thing there is that I think if you look at other agencies and where where their founders come from, they usually come from other bigger agencies, the traditional advertising space. And yeah, sometimes they migrate to digital, but it's usually people that have always worked in advertising from the traditional TV days and traditional advertising, and then today. Versus us, we come from other entrepreneurial projects, launching other businesses, right? So our mentality is, let's say, a little less creative and a little more entrepreneurial. And not to say that creativity is not important. We definitely think there's a place, and it's really, really important. But we can definitely smell the BS when they want to sell you just the creativity with no data to support it, or no business acumen, to explain why that's a good idea, right? So I think that's really what sets us apart. It's not a coincidence that analytics, it's our strongest service. I mean, we've been doing baseball analytics since before we worked in marketing even, right? So that's another thing that I think is, it's in the DNA of Condor, being data driven and entrepreneurial.
So you launched Condor 5 years ago. We've kind of established the foundation for how things have gotten started. Tell me about what the growth has looked like. What did you guys look like back then when you started compared to now?
Yeah, well, I mean, after the crisis, that team was reduced. And really, when we officially started Condor, which was at the beginning of 2018, it was Antonio, myself, and maybe 2 or 3 other people. So a team of, let's say, 5. And then today, after 5 years, we're a team of 80. All of us. Well, I'm in the U.S., but the rest of the team is in Venezuela, Mexico, Colombia, and Argentina. A couple of them. So all of them in Latin America. And we just made the Inc. 5000 list. So it's been a tremendous last couple of years, especially the first couple of years were rough as any business. And then, we finally started, to take off in year 3 or 4.
And also, I would say, no, sorry, Chad, that I would say that it was very important for us, even when at the beginning was very hard and we struggled as many companies. I think it was really important to have like a clear vision and a set of values, and like the compass was very clear for us. Like we needed to move in this direction, and basically we work in different process. For example, process centric is one of our values, and even when our process were I don't know, not that good at the beginning, we were constantly working on basically tuning those processes, and I think that was like a key factor from the beginning. And now basically we we keep our focus in what we needed to be done basically.
And Carlos mentioned year 3 or 4. Let me think. If you started in 18, then year 3 was in 21. That's kind of right in the heart of COVID. 2020 was COVID. 2021 also the heart of COVID. How did you guys kind of persevere through that?
Well, actually, COVID was scary. At first, we lose a couple of clients. Some of them reduce the scope, and it was a scary situation for everyone, basically. But it was a turning point for us. COVID basically changed the game. People started to work from home. The hybrid model was basically what everyone was doing, and actually, sometimes people from the US after COVID moved to other cities. For example, I live in Mexico City, and if you walk from in a neighborhood, in a popular neighborhood here in Mexico, you can actually hear more English than Spanish. So that's when we realized that, I mean, if companies or agencies were working with someone remotely in Chicago or in New York or in any part of the world, they could work with someone from Latin America, basically. And basically, that's when we started to also focus on providing services to digital marketing agencies. And it was a new line of services. We started to say, okay, maybe sometimes agency, they already have the know-how, but they need talent. And we started to provide talent for them, even when we borrow part of our team to those agencies, or when we find full-time positions for them or part-time positions for them. But it started to be a service for us, and we identified that agencies were needing that. And it for us was really good to build a team abroad, and we grow basically having a Latin American team. Why not helping these agencies to do the same, basically? So it started scary, but then it turned to be a game changer for us.
Yeah, I think working remotely is already scary for a lot of people in corporate America and all the world, especially back then. So removing that part of, okay, I feel comfortable. We had two barriers. You need to work with somebody remote, and you need to work with somebody from a different culture, right? So the first barrier was removed. And then, as they understand that, okay, yeah, they're from a different country, but they speak perfect English. They've been in the US. They know, okay, maybe these guys are not that different as I thought, So that's kind of like, and that has helped not only recruiting talent directly, but even in the managed services, right? To connect more and to have people feel more comfortable with the team, let's say the agency part of the team or the managed services side of the business. So yeah, COVID, it was big.
Very nice. So you've experienced tremendous growth even in the midst of difficult times, difficult circumstances beyond your control. And now, as we head toward the next year, 2024, what's kind of your vision for Condor moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously want to continue to grow. Not satisfied. I mean, we're happy, definitely happy and grateful, but not satisfied. And we've made good progress defining the two industries that we think we can help a lot. One of them, as we've been discussing, is marketing agencies, helping them to leverage talent in Latin America via permanent full-time people, freelancers, borrowing people from our team, white labeling our services, etc. I think that's a great space that we have already good experience. And then the other one is helping B2B marketing departments, and in particular IT services and consulting companies that have particular problems that we've been able to solve throughout these last few years, and we're developing proprietary technology for that. So going after those two segments, honing in on those, that's our strategy to continue to grow. But ultimately the vision is to connect Latin American talent to corporate America. That's really the long-term vision, and then more on a short to mid-term basis is focusing on those two segments.
And we want to be like the biggest connector between the Latin American people and corporate America, basically. And what Carlos and myself, we always say is, like, for example, in baseball, if you are a baseball team, you will hire the best available talent there. Like, for example, I don't know, you will go to Japan, to Venezuela, or to the Dominican Republic to find the best baseball players. And you need to do that also if you are a company. You need to open your eyes and look for people abroad. And also for, I don't know, Big Papi, that he was huge in Boston. He was earning more money at Boston than he was earning when he was back in the Dominican Republic. So for the people in Latin America, for us, it's also opening good possibilities for them in that connection. So that's how we see the things in the future, and what we will say to agencies and companies. Like, I mean, it's really good to hire people abroad, and it will basically put your team in a better position, basically.
Okay. Well, hey, Carlos and Antonio, it's been great to talk to you today. Great to meet you. I've really enjoyed hearing about your company. You've got a great vision for the future, and it sounds like you have the makings of a great podcast. So I'll look forward to listening to that as well. Thanks so much for having me today.
Thank you, Chad. I'm sure we'll see you soon, man. Thanks a lot. Great having you.
So long, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Tailwind Marketing Podcast. If you enjoyed it, remember to subscribe for future episodes. Until next time.